Hello everybody and welcome back to this new video. Today we're going to be talking about a web challenge from the Pwn2Win CTF. The challenge is called a payload to rule them all. The description is pawn me senpai. Automated tools are not required and not allowed. It's a technical challenge and then we have a link. If we go to that URL, we get this page saying pawn xxe, sqli and xss on the same payload and a button that says pawn, and then we have the source code as well. If we go to the source code, we see that this kind of looks clunky and all. So what we are going to do is we're going to view the page source, and this already looks way better. Another reason why you need to do this is because of these script tags that are included in one of the source scripts. But when you look at them like this, you're going to see that they get parsed and get ran. So this isn't even, if you would copy and paste this and enter all the new lines, you would get a messed up script, so it's actually needed to go here. Let's take a look at this. So this consists of an index.js script and a test payload.js script. Our index.js script is going to, when we post to there, it's going to take the payload from the body and it's going to run the test payload.js script, and then when that returns this, we get the flag, and else we get nope. So probably if we just enter something here, we'll get nope. Yeah, as expected. Okay, and then when we get the source, just gonna take the source. All right. Okay, then we have our test payload script. So this is being run with our payload. So it's gonna test. It has a function test xxe, test xss, test sqli, and a main function. And if all of those are true, then it's gonna console log this, which in our main script, in our index script, resulted in the flag. Okay. Let's take this code from the second script and let's put that in a file here. So we're gonna have a new file. Save that as, what was the name for that? The name was testpayloads.js. So we're gonna go to root CTF. I don't know why I'm stuck in here. CTF, a payload to rule them all, and I made this source file. And let's save this as test payload.js. So this file requires a lot of stuff. I've already npm installed them, so you npm install Puppeteer, MySQL, and so on. And then you can run this file locally instead of having to do everything blind. So alright, we want to have one payload that runs 3 exploits, like XSS, SQLi, and XSE. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make this a little bit easier for us to run. So we're going to make a new main function that we're just going to run. So we'll do function main, and in our main function we'll make a payload. So payload equals something, and then we'll run that payload on them and then print out the results. So let's start with the easiest one, and I think SQL injection is the thing I'm most comfortable with, so let's start with that one. So we're gonna make our SQL injection, then we have to use this promise, and in this promise we'll do a console log SQL and then plus our the result of our SQL injection. So let's take a look at this function. Yes, go there. That's here. So first it's going to connect to a database. Then it's going to select everything from users, store that. It's going to select everything from posts where ID and then our payload. And this is where the SQL injection comes into play. And then it's going to check if our SQL injected query, the result of that includes the password of the first user. So in our SQL injection, we pretty much want to get the password from users. So let's see how we would do that. So first we would have to close that first quote. And then we'll do a union select password from users. And then we'll comment. So something like that should work. But the issue is we don't know how many columns posts has. And we need to know that because in our union, the left side and the right side need to select the same amount of columns. So in order to know that, we could try something like a sleep 3. Yeah, something like that. Let's test that out. We'll do that in burp. So if we go back to here, we turn on our burp proxy. Just send something random. That's going to go to burp right now. We can turn off the proxy and send that to repeater. So right now we have this payload here. We'll insert our stuff and send this request. And at the bottom here you can see it took about 1 second to get this. So that means the sleep was not triggered. So this resulted in an error. Probably because the column amount was not correctly. So let's try one column. Send that. That also takes less than 3 seconds. So there, it was also not triggered. So let's select 3 columns. And this seems to be taking longer. Yeah, this took almost 4 seconds, which is over 3, so that sleep 3 probably got triggered. Let's just to verify test one more column to see if that doesn't trigger it. And yes, indeed it doesn't. So it seems like posts has 3 columns, right? So in our actual payload, we'll do 1.2 password from users, and that should work. Now, how do we test this all locally and make sure that we can work with this locally? I made a local database that is on that I can connect to, which is the user root, password root as well, and then the database is going to be foo. And in this database, if I connect to it, so MySQL -user root, put -p here. If I describe posts, you'll see it has 3 fields, or 3 columns rather. And if I describe users, you'll see it has a password. So that way I can test my exploits locally without having to do it blind every time. So now, with this payload, if we put that in our, this is not our interesting. I don't know how that happened, but since I changed all of this here, we'll copy that, close without saving. Oh, this is our changed one. Okay, weird, but that doesn't matter because if we just paste our changed code in here, that should be fine. And then we can use this as a payload and see if that will work locally already. So now we can exit out of here, /ls, we can make this executable, and /test payload.js. And we can see SQL injection works. Okay, perfect. So this is for SQL. Payload. Next, let's try a payload for XXC. So we're gonna have a new payload. And we are gonna grab our XXE, which is going to use the payload, and then we can console log here XXE, and then whether that was true or false. Okay, let's go to the function for XXE that's here. So it's going to create a secret. It's going to write that secret to a file, and we'll change that file to be something locally ctf a payload to rule them all. slash source slash xxc secret. And then it's gonna parse our payload and check whether our parsed payload includes our secret. So what we want to do is we want to have an xxc that reads from this file. So I don't know xxc, the payload, by heart, so I always just go to payload all the things, and here we have, we try to display the contents of a file, this one that I like to use. So let's use this as our payload here and grab our file that we were going to read. And let's see if that works. So if we just paste that in, save that, and let's run this, and we get an error. And the error occurs because we have to backslash these quotes here. If we run that again, we see our SQL injection is false, obviously, because we don't have that exploit in there, but our XXC was true, so that worked just fine. Now, something to note, when we are going to send this exploit to the server, we want to make sure that we change this file back to the original file that we have to read from the server, because else it's not going to work. So now we've already done 2 of them. Now the last one is XSS, and after that we have to combine all of them together and make sure that it works all together. So let's copy this, paste it in here, put the payload, and also have a nice console log message for us to read. XSS, values 1. No, put XSS in here. Okay. So for our XSS, let's take a look at that function down here. So it's gonna create a browser with Puppeteer. It's gonna sanitize our payload, and it's gonna have no allowed tags. This sanitization is happening with sanitize-html. So what I did is I read about it on the docs, and says if a tag is not permitted, the contents of the tag are still kept, except for script style and text area tags. So for them, the contents are going to get removed. Now we can test that out by printing the payload here, for example. The payload after the sanitization, so we can see what happened with it. But then it's going to use our sanitized payload in a script, and it's going to check if XSS variable is not undefined. Okay, so first of all, let's play around with this payload a little bit. So what we read is that if we have a normal tag and we have something in it, like, then that's gonna then the tags are gonna get removed and the contents are gonna stay. But if we have a script tag with something in it, then the contents are also gonna get removed. So let's try that out. And we see like stays put, but subscribe gets removed. So now we want our payload, or what is going to get run is this, and we want then to make sure that our payload sets the XSS variable. So if we run this with like alert 1, we see, okay, that works fine. All we have to put in here is XSS equals 1. If you go to expect element and we do a type of XSS, we see that it's a number and not undefined. So that's all that needs to happen there. So let's go back to our payload and say, okay, all we need here is XSS equals 1. So now if we run this, we should see that for our XSS it's going to be true. Okay, perfect. So that worked just fine, and we have our 3 individual payloads. But now the part comes where we have to add all of these together. So, which one will we start with? Well, XML is the one that's the most set in stone. It's the hardest to modify because everything has to be in tags, and else it will break. So we're going to start with this one. And then let's try adding the SQL injection here. So for our SQL injection, we can put anything before this and anything after this, because everything after it will be commented out. Everything before it will be in these single quotes. Right? So we can copy this, go to the back here. We have our root tag, let's make a new tag in here. And another one, so tag A, and it closing tag B. And in our B tag, we'll put our SQL injection. Now this is going to work because, like I explained, everything before it will be in the quotes. Everything after it will be commented out. So I think this payload should work on both SQL and XXC, but it doesn't work on SQL. Interesting, interesting. Now why is that the case? That's the case because, we have another single quote here at the beginning and here with our file. So we can make those double quotes and also escape them. And let's run this. And now we see, yes, our SQL and XXC are both working. So now we just need to include XSS in there. Now we also still have that console log statement in there of everything that gets printed. And we notice it's a bunch of garbage, but all of these can pretty much be removed by changing the names of this A and B tag to script, script, or what was the other one we could use? Script style or text area. So let's do that. Just change this one to script, closing script, this A to text area. Oh, it's kind of hard to work with the text being big and working in a long payload. Okay, so this A will become text area. And now if we run it, we should see that our SQL stuff is a little bit smaller, but we still have these nasty things there. And these occur because those are these two here. And these are very difficult to get rid of in our XSS because they are kind of integral to XXC, and everything before here needs to be in a proper tag, because else it's going to break. So that's kind of an issue. So what we're running with then is we have to get XSS in this, but the first character has to be a closing square brace and then an ampersand greater than and a semicolon. Now if you run that, you'll notice we get errors. So even if after here I say XSS equals 1, XSS is not going to be set. No, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. If I reload this and I do type of XSS, we'll see it's undefined. So that this script is kind of broken. What can we do? Well, what if we make our payload be script, closing script tag, opening script tag again, and then XSS equals 1. Now if we run that and we do type of XSS, we'll see it's a number again, so that's perfect. But the issue is, how are we going to put this payload and have it get through our sanitize HTML function? Well, we see that this page go to, it's going to put it in the URL. So what would happen if we would URL encode this? Let's go to our decoder, encode as URL. What happens if we use this as a payload? And let's actually try it here. Put that in. Well, that works here, obviously. But will it also work in our actual payload? So let's make another tag here, C tag. Put that in there. So what the parser is, what the HTML sanitizer is going to do, it's going to remove the C tag, but it's going to keep the contents, because this is never URL decoded. And then it's going to URL decode it after it's been sanitized, and then we have our malicious code. So if we save that, and then run our file, we see that all three of these are true. So locally we have everything working. Let's see if we can get it working remotely. So we'll go into burp, into repeater. We'll paste that in here. Then we had to change this file to be, let's see, that was going to be home gnx XSC secret. So we can change that. We also have these backslashes that we needed for the quotes that we don't need anymore. So we can remove those. And then we have to URL encode all of this and send the request. And what do we see? Well, it worked and we got the flag. CTF-BR payload polyglots are more fun than file types. And that was this challenge. It was a really fun one, a really creative one. I messed around with it a lot initially. I made a lot of mistakes, but I ended up getting the flag, and it was a really enjoyable challenge. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you back in another one.